you've all been waiting for. Tonight's main attraction. I present to you International Freethinkers. Listening to the We Are Sober podcast.
All right, and we're back. Hello, everyone. Good evening. How are we doing? Whoa, ʻOllieman, you're okay. There we go.
Yeah, I got stuck in the back.
You got stuck in the back. It's okay. It happens. Okay, well, we're back from being, no, we were live 2 weeks ago, but I wasn't just there, and we had a pre-recorded show last week, but we had most of the usual people here, and a new guest, Jason.
Hey,
volunteer, the guy behind all the
TechLord.
Yes, TechLord. You know, I'm a little surprised, Jason, you didn't put that in your name.
I next time.
Okay, fine. Next time.
Well, he
Guaranteed a new spot.
as a tech lord, he might have to get into a tech war with William Shatner.
Oh, God.
From what I understand, that's not a war. He's kind of tech illiterate, but
well, he wrote those series of books called Tech Wars, right?
No, I don't know.
Yeah,
Did he?
William Shatner. Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you. As far as like William Shatner's writing, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm full on out. And, like,
I don't
no.
blame you. I don't blame you a bit.
I'm a Trekkie through and through, but when it comes to his writing, Star Trek V, no, thank you.
Yeah, it also made a brief television appearance too. Tech Wars.
Oh boy,
they did one season. It was horrible. It was truly horrible.
That does not surprise me.
Appreciate that. Well, Jason, now you're familiar with ʻOllieman, and I'm sure you've
chatted. Yeah.
Yes. Good. I'm glad to get to know each other. I'm glad we got all those important questions out of the way. Kelly, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking.
Good. Justin, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. Yes.
I'm kind of glad that we're pivoting a bit on the topic. I wanted to specifically talk about tech even before the latest big tech news was all over the internet about a week ago.
Very timely of you.
I saw somebody on Twitter posting like, hey, I like my secular atheist freethinker community and fans, but the gist of it was that I like talking about tech and nobody likes talking about tech in this community, or just not enough people, right? And we tend to like focus and zero in on religion, and that just we have a lot more to us and a lot more things to talk about than just that. So we should spend more time talking about things that are really interesting to us.
No,
things that we're passionate about, rather than just things that we reject or whatever, because we're not all philosophers and scientists and what have you.
That sounded like to me, Justin. Like I should invite you to come disc golfing with me because it's so much fun.
Jesus
That
Christ.
is not. You know what? You fed him that. That's your fault.
Yeah.
You did. And
the best thing in tech to reject, of course, is anything that is Apple. As I hold up my MacBook. No.
There's
only one guilty pleasure of Apple, just the phone. That's it.
We don't talk about it much, but I went to school for IT. I got my associates in computer information systems. I've done a lot of hobbyist programming. I got my basic IT certifications in A+, Net+, Security+, and then I work in building automation systems, which is it's IT, but it's not standard IT. It's adjacent, and we work with the standard IT systems, but all the same concepts still apply. But it's just not something that the community, there's not a lot of people in here to talk about that kind of stuff with.
I have a similar path as you and got, CompTIA certifications, but I'm going more towards cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, watching what happened Monday is just like, oh, that's interesting.
I feel like you had something to do with it.
Look, I have
Word on the
alibis.
street.
People saw me. I was at work. Don't
I'm interested in the general conversation, especially around Facebook, because I'm sure you've read about it. The story is that there was a BGP change that they dropped off the DNS tables, so they couldn't route to their internal network. But so if you're familiar with BGP, Border Gateway Protocol, and the global DNS tables, one small change can bring your whole network down, and it's not something that you can fix right away. Even if you caught it the moment it happened and turned it back on or reconfigured it, it could still take hours and hours to propagate and bring your network back online. So I find it interesting that the general conversation around it and all the conspiracy theories and the memes and Zuck turned the Facebook off because his wife got a hold of his messenger type stuff.
Some of the memes were absolutely brilliant because internet.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Go.
Can you explain what DNS stands for the audience?
DNS is domain naming. I think it's server. But it's what translates the website web name URL into an IP address, and it does that and also shares the records of this translation with all of the computer networks across the internet. So DNS is basically what tells all the computers what the address is of any given network.
Okay.
Like your ISP, AT&T, Verizon, whoever it may be, has their own DNS tables and records that will communicate with other networks' DNS records, and will communicate. Eventually, they get back to the global ones, and these hold records of who's who and where's where, and helps create the routing paths to every computer on the internet. So if there's a change that affects how your basically your digital location in the world or in the digital world, and that's no longer accessible, I can be plugged basically right next door to your building, but there's no pathway for the traffic to get there. And all these systems are automated, so it's not like you can just go, type in something and go directly to it. They use dynamic routing protocols that automatically configure themselves and automatically reroute traffic based on what networks and servers and things are available across the world. So unfortunately, one small change can have the effect that we saw on Facebook.
And all their services, are also internal. And so when they essentially took themselves offline, it also took down their ability to get into the building because their security services were on all the similar networks. And they couldn't call anybody for help because all their messaging services were on the same thing. And that really kind of shows you that if you don't have any kind of outside backups, if you don't have any kind of outside, your main services, that you really kind of set yourself up for a disaster. And it's amazing that this hasn't happened sooner with them. It's just, I don't know how you do that. There are a bunch of hackers. Facebook has so many different hackers, and you would think that it'd be like, oh, maybe we should set up a little bit of redundancy.
So are you saying what happened with Facebook earlier this week was on purpose? Like they did that?
No.
Okay.
I'm not convinced it's on purpose.
Okay.
Because I can picture how something like this could happen, and it doesn't take much, right? If you fat finger a Python code or a script or a batch command or something like that, you could do this, right? But in the IT world, the person who would be in charge of implementing a change like this, which would be like a network architect, the guy that makes, 300 or 400 grand a year working at Facebook, he's not the one typing it, but should be double checking it, triple checking it, having backups and stuff readily available. Like they should know. And if they use AAA or Quad A, which is like authentication and auditing and the IT stuff that, who's doing it, when it was done, exactly what was done, they should know within minutes exactly what happened and how to fix it. But if they're working remotely and they lock themselves out of the system, that's when chaos happens.
Also, their auditing software should have prevented them from even typing any command in. You can do that, but executing that command.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just kind of like a perfect storm of failures, a comedy of errors, if you will.
So, okay. And especially since, okay, so if you're saying that there should have been some type of, I guess, backup system to prevent this type of incidents from ever occurring. And I think it was like literally hours before it was back up again. I don't know how long, but
well, so there's something called an autonomous system, AS. So the internet on a basic level is comprised of autonomous systems connecting to each other. AT&T connects to Verizon, Verizon connects to Google, Google connects to Facebook, Facebook connects to Ford, Ford connects to, whatever other big giant network that's out there. Mm-hmm. The internet is basically just a lot of big networks connecting to each other, eventually reaching out to smaller networks. And each of these big networks, like Facebook would have their own. So they apply through ICANN or whoever, and they get an IS or an AS number, an autonomous system number, which makes them like an independent network on the internet. What they did is they locked themselves out in their entire autonomous system, so nobody could connect from any way. So they'll have multiple routes, and they'll have internal balancing servers, VPNs, all the stuff that maintains all the internal networks very well. And once you get in the network, they'll have great security and ways to keep the network reliable and sending traffic to all these different directions so it doesn't get DDoS and all this other stuff. But if you can't get in the network at all, none of that stuff matters.
And this was their own standalone network, so that's what you're saying.
Well, yeah, because every major, like the biggest of the biggest networks are autonomous systems.
They have to.
Yeah,
they have to, because they're so large. So like, if you become a Facebook, if you become an Amazon, Microsoft, what have you, you control your own phone book. Mm-hmm. You control your own DNS servers. Mm-hmm. Now those DNS servers then go to other DNS, because it is a completely, we talk about how everything is interconnected, mesh networks and blah, 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 whatever. It really is the case, because all these different DNS servers work in conjunction with each other in order to make sure that if anything changes, that it is distributed worldwide in an instant. Otherwise, if something were to change, it could take, hours or days, through some of the older systems that we had before you could, go to Microsoft's website, Apple's website, and that's money lost. That's thousands, millions, billions in some cases just gone because your website was down.
Yeah, they're also potentially violating their SLA. So an SLA is a service level agreement. And you find it mostly in tech companies where they have an agreement with anybody that works for the federal government or with other big companies. They have an SLA. Like Cloudflare goes down all the time, and they're probably getting in trouble for it. But so they guarantee 99.9% uptime. So if a company, the government or another company, what have you, can't access your services that they're paying for to the agreed percentage of time from the SLA, you can get sued for that for huge amounts of money for violating these contracts.
So is Facebook getting sued?
Probably not, but that makes it like illegal for your services to go down almost.
Mm-hmm.
They won't get sued, but anybody who was part of this, I mean, yes, it's all internal and all that good stuff, but they're going to be feeling the hurt. Who, if it was a contractor, that contract is probably gone at this point.
Oh yeah.
It really all depends on that. Now, this was also, so we've talked about DNS, but it was also a little bit more than that as well, because they were completely off the internet. One thing about DNS is it's great in how you type in facebook.com and it turns into like 31.13.71.36.
Yeah.
But if you type that IP into your web browser, instead of typing in, facebook.com, you type that IP in, it takes you to Facebook. That wasn't working. You could not directly connect into it. So it was almost like somebody had pulled the backbone out of the building for a while. However,
so we don't know if it was intentional or not.
Again, so we're relying on things that Facebook has said, and after the 60 Minutes interview, how much can we trust them?
Right.
Look, there are things we're not going to know. There, as far as what all went down, and we don't need to know. It's not important. Not getting your cousin's pictures for a few hours, not having your racist uncle post another anti-vax post, it's perfectly fine. Yeah, that doesn't need to be there anymore.
They were hurting.
They were hurting. Yeah. Too bad. So sad.
Have we seen the? Oh no, finish your point. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The like I said, we won't really know what all happened, but I don't think that this was anything that was external. This isn't a Snowden situation. This was probably an honest mistake that is just really so funny.
So have we seen this type of thing happen with any other social media network or any other major tech corporation where they've had hours or days even of shutdown?
On this scale, no.
No, we've seen Google has gone down. We've lost like YouTube and Google, but Google has some of their stuff separated, right? Like when YouTube goes down, Google.com still works, right? And we've seen, like I mentioned earlier, Cloudflare goes down all the time because it's the biggest, one of the biggest internet hosting providers, and it has tons and tons of services, and they get DDoS all the time. But we've had Discord to go down. We've had a bunch of important stuff go down, not just social media, but this is a very unique situation in my experience.
Everything that was Facebook, and this also includes Oculus server. So if anybody had a Quest 2 that was tied into Facebook services, you can play your games. So if there's any kind of streamers out there, they might have lost some revenue. So yeah, this to have things go down on this level. I mean, there's been some serious Microsoft issues. Some of those were not internal. Some of those were actual attacks, and we are seeing an overall increase of cyber attacks, whether it's DDoS or distributed denial of service. The funny thing is that we actually created a DDoS attack on Facebook on Monday. When they went down, what did a lot of people start doing? They got on their phones, and they're constantly refreshing. And every time they refresh, that's a new request sent to them. And so while you're trying to bring sensitive services back up, you've got people saying, hey, are you there? Are you there? Are you there? Are you there? And they're just like, whoa, hold on. We can only handle so much while we're trying to still fix this. So we actually created what's called a distributive denial of service. Now they were still able to recover from that, and everybody got their cat photos and their racist rants in. So, and their conspiracy theories and the, hey, look at this magnet thing, on my arm, bullshit.
Right. So as far as conspiracy theories go, because I can see how most people will see the irony of, the whole Facebook shutdown thing, just in conjunction with, wanting to take it on the political side, like, oh, Facebook's been behind such and such thing since the election. And
don't forget the whistleblower testimony that happened the day before.
That makes it the worst time to go down. That makes it the absolute worst time for them to go down.
Because there's going to be so many people that believe that they use that time to purge records and computers and stuff. The funny thing is they couldn't access any of their own computers, so it doesn't,
Yeah, they don't need to take Facebook down in order to purge those records. You don't need that. But the sale of billions of people's personal information. I got bad news for everyone, within here and out there listening to us. Your information's out there. Your information is absolutely out there. It's out there on the dark web. It is out there, freely purchasable. You can, not freely purchasable. That's kind of a contradiction. You can purchase this personal information, and a lot of places do. Whether it's a political campaign, whether it's advertisers. Advertisers love buying your information.
I was thinking about that the other day. So you go into the mall, and there's a truck in the middle of the mall. Hey, write down your phone name and number and email address and your zip code, and you'll enter to win this truck. And then 2 weeks later, you're getting advertisements sent to your house because somebody bought a truckload full of postcards with names on it and email addresses and phone numbers.
Yeah.
That's the last time I tried to win a car.
Well, if you own a house, your information is out there because that's public record.
Yeah. Public record, yeah. There's some voter registration information.
Right.
I was in the military, so I gave that shit away a long time ago.
Same.
And any sort of privacy is out the window. And I work for a public institution, so it's all gone.
So that sounds really scary, I'm sure. But let me assure you of one thing. We almost have the Three Stooges kind of situation here. It's like, oh, my information's out there. I'm going to be hacked today. No, you're not.
No.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that is because there's so much information out there to parse through all of that and pick one individual target out of a sea of a lot of this data. Yes, you can purchase it, but it is not well organized.
Yeah, you're a needle in a haystack.
Yes. So
I also
sucks
think
that you're
there's a lot better target. I'm sorry, I was thinking I always figure there's a lot better targets out there than me also.
Oh, now
it doesn't necessarily work that way.
No.
So targets aren't chosen individually, right? So what happens is Twitch gets hacked. Then your email address is out there, right? Now they have a list of 10 million emails or whatever. And then a bank gets hacked and another website gets hacked. And most of the time, passwords are encrypted. So they have the encrypted password, then they have the hash, and they have all the stuff. But there might be some stuff in clear text. So if they can couple enough information and get a decent sized list of usernames, email addresses, and passwords, they put all that together, and then they start brute forcing banking information or Facebook information or whatever app that you use or social media that you use. And they have algorithms and programs and scripts that do all this stuff all automatically at a push of a button. And they try to brute force and get into as many accounts as they can. And that's why you see those Ray-Ban ads all over Facebook sometimes, or whatever it may be. And it could just be advertising clicks, and it could be trying to access like an app that might have access to your bank, or it could be trying to put a backdoor in your computer to lock out all your information for ransomware. It could be any number of things, but it's almost never on an individual level. On our scale, people that would hack us, it's just brute forcing with tons of information that are available, using programs and algorithms to parse through it all.
Didn't Yahoo run into some issues like years ago? Because I feel like this is why I got rid of my whole Yahoo email account in the first place, because it was like every time when I had an email address, I get all of these weird spam messages and emails through Yahoo, and I feel like there's something that happened or occurred with their website some years ago.
It's not Yahoo. You could have signed up for a hair care product and put your email and do a website, and they sold that to a service that collects emails. They sold it off, and eventually somebody sold it off to a bunch of spammers and people that try to get you to click on shit.
And then Yahoo got a hold of it.
Well, I mean,
I'm just kidding.
So Kelly, you said how if they target me, that I'm not worth it.
Can I just break in? I got a way more serious response to what I thought was going to be some self-deprecating humor that I was totally expecting. So,
well,
please go ahead and explain it. Go ahead and explain it, because it is very interesting to me.
Yeah,
I'm pretty much not tech savvy at all.
So many. This was like 20-something years ago. My cousin was 16 years old, and he had his identity stolen. So here is somebody with absolutely no credit record because he is underage.
Wow.
And yet somehow using his social security number that somebody just, I guess pulled up randomly. I don't know exactly how they got his information. Because again, this was in the mid-90s. No, it would have been, let's go late 90s, early 2000s. Don't know how they got his information. They were able to take out loans under his name, even though he's not legally allowed to due to his age. How does that work? But it's and I've heard stories of even younger, elementary age, they're getting their IDs stolen and loans taken out for them, and it doesn't matter, you think, well, my credit is bad, and this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because there's some way that they'll find a creditor, and they don't care if it's a parasitic type of credit situation. They'll find somebody who will run that information and try to scam a few $1,000s out of a name that was never theirs to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, our banking systems, the government systems, all this stuff is better now than it used to be about it. Like, I get a text and because of this, I get a text message for every single transaction on my bank account, on my debit and credit card. I have two-factor authentication on everything, and they call me. They will actually block any transaction and call me if it's out of far away from where my last transaction was. I'm sure there's some certain threshold for that. But that's not every bank does that, and it definitely was not always the case before. I just happen to have a military bank that keeps track of all that stuff. But it doesn't take much, and it doesn't take long.
No.
On a complete side note of all of that, if you should always use a credit card if you can, because when you're using a credit card, you're spending the credit company's money, and if it gets stolen and hacked, they're spending their money and they're insured. And you're not responsible for any of that.
Not a debit card that has a logo, but an actual credit card. There was actually a great video that I saw. It was kind of a TED Talk from the one and only Frank Abagnale, who pretty much wrote the book on how to scam money out of people. He was the one who was the key figure in the movie Catch Me If You Can. Did the went as an airplane pilot and all that. And he said that no, the safest thing to have in your pocket is a credit card, because you are not liable for any of those purchases, any of them. So if you dispute it, then yeah, it's the credit card company that has to then make it right.
Yeah, and they're always insured for insane amount of money, and your account is always insured for like $1 million or whatever it is.
That's why credit unions are better than banks.
Oh, I've always heard that too, and I still have a bank. I should probably switch. Anyway, I had besides the good news out of Facebook,
and Twitch,
and Twitch. Thank you. I know, Justin, you wanted to. Honestly, this is very timely that you wanted to talk about this. You wanted to dive more into other consumer tech. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend the whole time on Facebook's poor change request process.
This is why I told you I should have not listened to people and got a Facebook.
Request for change. I don't remember the document's called.
No,
but
change request.
Yeah, but it's just something that I've always been interested in. I get a new phone every year, upgrade my computer all the time. I've got like countless amounts of shit that I don't use. It's just something that I'm really interested in. And it's I watch all the videos, the unboxings, the updates, the latest and greatest, and it's I just find it fascinating, especially compared to where we were like 10 years ago with our phones and laptops and computers and stuff. And the IoT, the Internet of Things, that makes everything is web enabled now. Light bulbs, washers, refrigerators, your hot water tank, your windows. I mean, everything.
I've noticed that shit breaks down faster.
It's designed to.
Well, it's cheaply designed. So I mean, but it's still a new technology, right? A lot of that stuff is. It's new. It's poorly made. We don't want to spend a lot of money on a Wi-Fi enabled light. So what they do is they use cheap parts and they manufacture it overseas, and they're designing and manufacturing it as cheaply as possible because they know that's all we'll pay for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's also an amazing attack vector. This IoT, which is a phrase that I absolutely hate.
I saw you cringe.
My whole field of building automation systems and HVAC controls and stuff like that is technically IoT, because we have devices out there that we connect to, sometimes to the internet, that IT doesn't know anything about, but they're connected to the internet, right? And that's a huge security risk in a building. And that's how Target and I think Kohl's or some other company got hacked, through the HVAC system.
IoT right here.
Oh gosh.
So
is that a Raspberry Pi?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
There is a bit of a movement towards kind of the buy it for life type of automation on devices, but either that, whether it's a device that has swappable parts or things that are will last for some time, but with things that are being upgraded always, like your protocols and your software, how do you have something that you can keep for a long time and won't go so far out of date that it can no longer connect or communicate with the network?
You get yourself a framework notebook. Oh wait.
I think that's on the consumer technology manufacturers like Google and Apple. we say it's all for profit. So like Apple won't let you upgrade their RAM or their processor or whatever, what have you. And sure, I'm sure it is. It helps their bottom line when they can just sell you a new one. But at the same time, the rate of change of the internet and technology and stuff and batteries and CPUs and everything else like that, you shouldn't want to keep as many pieces of that as you can and upgrade it piece by piece. It works occasionally for like a high-end computer. You can keep it for 5, 6, 7 years and swap out piece by piece. But after that 7 years, your power supply is dangerous. Your motherboard is shot. I mean, there's a lot of problems there that you're not aware about.
I would give a little bit of pushback on that, because we've actually seen, I don't want to say it's a stagnation of performance, but ever since we moved over to solid state drives, they really have been the equalizer. So the MacBook Pro that I flashed up on screen earlier, it's a 2015 and it runs great. My main computer is from 2017, and other than Microsoft playing around with which processors can and cannot be used for the new operating system, I think they fixed that little issue. I could put my computer up to Windows 11 if I wanted to, and at some point I probably will. And as far as your motherboard, a lot of them are using solid state capacitors, and so we really do have technology that is designed to really go the distance. We don't have Pentium 1 processors and then Pentium 2 is like tripled the performance. It's really when your boot times are 10 seconds and all that, the solid states have really equalized things, and so we can keep computers a lot longer.
Yeah, I think like 5 to 7 years or so is reasonable for a mid to high end machine, and I think it's been like that for a very long time.
I felt that, yeah, and I was gonna say, because you had mentioned the MacBook too, because my sister held that claim when she got her like home Mac computer, and she's had it for like, I would say almost maybe 8 years too, and it still runs fairly well. She just doesn't update the damn software ever, so it kind of
she needs to
freaking slow as shit. Well,
but since you mentioned Windows 11, the TPM 2.0 is a make or break factor, right? So the TPM is
not really.
What does it stand for again?
Trusted
platform module.
Yeah. So here's the thing about that. We've had TPM in computers a lot longer than people think.
We've never used them on the consumer side.
No, we haven't. And that's actually a pretty bad shame. But ever since a 4th or 5th gen Intel processor, and we're up to the 11th or 12th now, you have that TPM probably already in your computer. It just needs to be enabled. Now, there are some things that if you wanted to take advantage of some of the really amazing security of Windows 11, like from a security standpoint, I'm just like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. You need more RAM. You need more RAM in your computer. But beyond that, if you have a computer that is, like I said, mine is, from 2017. If you've got a computer that is, 7 years old, chances are likely you just need to enable TPM, install Windows 11, and you're good to go.
So for anyone that doesn't know, the TPM, the Trusted Platform Module, is a secondary processor. So computers tend to have actually more than one processor. You have your CPU, your central processing unit, but then you have other components that do other things, like your North Bridge and South Bridge do some processing. Your TPM does processing. The TPM is primarily a crypto processor, meaning it handles all your security. So So the TPM is what verifies your facial recognition or your fingerprint or your BitLocker if you're gonna encrypt your whole drive. So or if you have a key card reader, stuff like that, will go through the TPM instead of your regular CPU and hard drive and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's an additional device for that.
By the way, you can always tell an old tech guy when they start using terms like Northbridge and Southbridge.
Yeah,
they don't really exist anymore.
Right.
There you go. So is TPM something that's automatically like accessible, or you said it's now in consumer computers?
It's been in computers. So we use it for like Kerberos and things like that on the enterprise side for authenticating your username and password against a network level authentication server. On the consumer side, though, it's been there, but it's almost never enabled. Even in BIOS, on my computer, it's brand new. It's disabled by default.
Why is that?
Because it's not needed.
It's not heavily used.
It's a feature that it's easy to add, but it's hard to get people to implement it properly without basically bricking their whole computer and accidentally encrypting their whole drive or something like that.
So is this only utilized like in workspaces or like government security, whatever?
It's definitely used in workspaces.
Yeah.
Because I was just going to say, because when I have to access like certain, health records or whatever that are online, even turning on my computer, I have to scan my badge and all that stuff.
Right. So they probably have, there's either, there's a TPM or some sort of security module that's processing that information.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this really close on good on camera, but
ooh,
hang on. I'm gonna blow you up, son.
Oh, we got this.
If I can figure, there we go. I figured it out.
There. So there's the security tab, and the TPM module is enabled on this particular computer. And this one I want to say is about 4 years old.
Nice.
Okay.
So specifically with Windows 11, they want TPM 2.0, which that one may or may not be. It's not necessarily going to say which version it is in the BIOS, and it may or may not have that version on that computer. But you'd have to look at the manufacturing data.
TPM can be upgradable though. So if your computer does have TPM 1.2 is the old version, check with your manufacturer. You may be able to update your computer to have 2.0 flash to it.
Oh, okay. So flash to it. It wouldn't be a module.
When you update BIOS, you always flash BIOS.
But yeah, you would actually flash that update to the BIOS and then to the TPM module.
Yeah, or UEFI, whatever people are
TPM
calling it
module,
nowadays.
TP module, but
ATM machine.
Yeah, right.
ATM machine.
You guys, the same words. I love it.
Common access card.
Card. I remember my cat card.
Cat card.
CAC, Jena.
CAC. Common access card. It's a military thing. Don't even worry about it.
Great.
It's just your ID with a chip in it. That's all.
Got it. Okay. God damn it.
But it has like your whole life on that chip, which is really disturbing.
That is
More
disturbing.
or less,
so what do you do? Do you still have it? What do you do with it?
No, they take it.
Oh,
okay. They took mine. I don't know where anybody else's is at. You can just say you lost it.
Jason?
You can't do anything with it.
Who I work for, I need to have one.
Okay. Fair enough.
If you're at a DoD contractor, you probably have one.
Silence. Yay.
I like the way he didn't say anything to that.
I'm so lost. I'm beyond lost.
Hey, just wait until we start
right now, and I'd be like,
Wait, just wait until Justin and I start speaking binary at each other. Then you're gonna be.
I have watched.
Oh
I
God.
have watched Justin do coding, and I'm just like, this is.
I can translate binary like on paper. Like I can go from binary to hex to decimal to whatever. I can't give you numbers like off the top of my head and make it make sense.
You're no bender. Okay.
No.
So we won't have to worry about
No
you
bender?
going back in time. That's fine.
Gosh. So okay. With
go ahead.
Go,
no, I was just gonna say that we kind of got bogged down in the some stuff like TPM and tech. Windows 11, this and that, but I think just to the general direction of consumer tech, one thing that bothers me is it's so some of the industries in it are so stagnant. Like if you look for wearables, like wearable technology, it sounds really cool, but it's basically
Google glasses,
Fitbit, smartwatch, headphones.
Well, Google Glass is dead, thankfully. But yeah, the only really good wearable is the Apple Watch, and you have to be in the Apple ecosystem in order to enjoy it.
I have one.
I really like my watch, but but there's nothing special about it.
Yeah.
What were we gonna say, Helen?
We gave like my husband won an Apple Watch, but we have all Androids. But my oldest had an iPhone, and basically they use it to like track their steps throughout the day. Like everything else, they still grab their phone for texting and stuff like that. They're like, it's really good for monitoring my health during the day. That's it. So
yeah, I've been using Android watches for like 4 or 5 years, and you only use it to find your phone, to make your phone ring, to track your steps. And they're somewhat reliable, and to just look at your notifications. And every single generation just does. They keep adding more and more crap into it, but that's all anybody uses them for.
This is a good question. Why did Google Glasses die? Was it a failure of the product or lack of interest? That's why I'm curious, because I thought that was the coolest shit.
Lack of interest, or maybe just the creep factor of having someone recording everything that they see.
When I was in school, I had my first year in school, I had an English teacher who used to be a writer, a technical document writer, but he was also a runner. But he came to class with his Google Glass on, and he did trail runs with it on, and made some really cool videos. And it was at that time, it was like the first year. They're like, oh, surgeons are going to be using this, educators are going to be using this, runners are going to be using this, astronauts are going to be using this. Everybody's going to be using this damn thing to show the world all the cool stuff they're doing from their point of view. And it fucking died like a year later. It was gone off the face of the world.
See, I came up with another product to counter the Google Glass. I called it the Google Brick.
Well, I know that like with these here, I mean, these are, if you can take a look, quite light. And every year, that is one of the things that I'm trying to do, is trying to get anything that I'm wearing on my head to be as light as possible. It makes it easier and easier. So if you have something that has electronics and power and communication all built in, the amount of time that you're going to be able to use that thing without it needing to be recharged, or if it has a Bluetooth connectivity, that's going to suck power. Even if you offload the processing to your phone, that's going to suck power on your phone. So is it that there wasn't, you're going to have to put a brick on your head, or have a power brick always with you so you can charge it back up? Was that part of it?
I feel like over time, though, I guess the power charging of it and everything would have been improved. It's just initially, when it came out, it seemed, and one of you said it, either Jason or Justin, it was the creep factor of it.
That was Malty that said it. But how much do you think it cost when it was in the Explorer version when it came out?
Oh, that's true.
$1,500 or something?
$1,500.
Okay. Yeah, that's
prosumer.
for this something that lasted maybe 2 hours and your phone did all the work.
Right.
Right. It was a good idea, but the technology just isn't there for something like that to be popular yet.
The biggest problem is that our battery technology has not kept up with the rest of our technology. We have packed more transistors in a single space. Meanwhile, our batteries, while they seem impressive, you've got electric cars that can go for 200, 300, 400 miles on a single charge. That's an absolute joke compared to the computer that runs those batteries.
Yeah. We're just we're battling chemistry and physics. And
Yeah, I mean,
we're losing the war.
Some nice things with bendables, far as energy production. So you'll have wearable technology that actually your movement,
kinetic energy transfers to chemical energy.
Or either that or the difference between your body heat and the outside temperature, as the temperature goes through as the heat goes through the device, it makes a current. These are all very small current type pieces of equipment, but if we can get the demand low enough, that kind of stuff might be usable.
We talk about how wireless charging is so cool, and there's a cool thing about it, but dozens and dozens of years ago, we had crystal radios, no power source on it whatsoever. It was powered by the AM signal coming into it.
So no, because I'm not saying no, I disagree with you, but I feel wireless charging is the most frustrating thing to me. It never charges shit quick enough. I always ended up plugging in hardwire anyway, because it's just, and then it's so inconvenient because I want to pick up my phone while it's charging, but it's laying flat on this thing, and it's so inconvenient for me right now to utilize.
And then it superheats the phone, and so your charging becomes less effective as it goes until it says, "Oh, by the way, I'm running too hot. I'm just not going to take a charge anymore."
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever seen a battery?
This is the greatest life altering technology in the world.
What is that?
That is actually pretty cool.
Ooh,
magnets.
Oh.
Yeah. It only does charging. It does not do any data transfer. They do have ones that do data transfer, but their design is a little bit problematic. There's you can get if you get any sand or grain into where the connections are, it's pretty well toast. You have a hard time getting those back out.
Apple figured it out with their iMacs. Because they have a magnetic charger, or a magnetic power, I should say.
Connection.
And the Ethernet connection is actually on the power brick. And so they do have it where there is an electrical connection to the Ethernet port on the back of your iMac.
Electrical connection. Oh, so it uses that protocol that you would send signal through your regular 110 volt outlet.
No.
But it's going through the power, or are you talking about two different connections?
This is what you're talking about, multi. It's a PoE or Ethernet.
That's what I was talking about.
But that's not what it is. That's not what it is. It is.
What was that again, Justin? What was that?
This is it's Ethernet over power. It's a power line Ethernet bridge. So they call them power line adapters. So basically, you can plug one of these in next to your router, and there's a Ethernet port on the bottom, and then plug it anywhere else in your house that has power, and then you can connect whatever anywhere in your house to that Ethernet and have it a wired connection.
You probably want to be if it's there. You have an A and a B circuit line. You probably should be on the same circuit line.
Ideally, you'll be on the same circuit.
Yeah,
but it will work on both. It's just not as good, and you definitely have to be in the same house.
But what I'm saying is that, so you've got the Ethernet port on your power brick,
Okay.
And it actually has the 8 wires in the magnetic. So the way that they have to do it is it's the adapter is keyed. So it's magnetic, but it's keyed, and so that it can only fit in one way, technically 2 ways because it is reversible. But the way that it fits in is that those 8 wires of your Ethernet cable plug in, or you make contact with 8 wires within that power adapter, and so it is a full gigabit Ethernet connection. It is not power line.
Oh, gotcha. So yeah, they just have a shielded pairs running with the DC power.
I should hope it's shielded. if you're running that next to your 60 hertz, like no, you definitely want to have that. Well, I mean,
it's a brick. It's coming in and as DC.
But DC is not as clean as DC is. DC is not always clean.
Sure.
So I would still hope that with how small and light and thin that they try to make everything, I would think that they would have also made the lines shielded as well.
So are they're running like Ethernet over Lightning or Ethernet over some other protocol or some other connectivity standard into the iMac?
Yeah, it's literally just the 8 wires plugging directly through that connector. So it's completely proprietary, but it still comes into your computer as your 802 Ethernet.
So is this something I should have?
No.
Justin, how come I don't have that?
Well,
no, I don't want a Mac.
But I mean, this is completely off the side rails. But Ethernet is different from 802.11a, which is never mind.
That's why I said only 802.
Yeah,
because that's part of the suite.
Because you can run Ethernet over a bunch of different types of connections. You can Ethernet over fiber optics is popular in data centers.
I was just gonna say, so obviously a fiber optic is a bit more superior than Ethernet, correct?
Well, so Ethernet, Ethernet runs over copper. Generally, so we run hardwired Ethernet. It runs over copper, and there's 8 wires, and the gigabit copper connection. And fiber is basically just pulses of light. And there's several different types of fiber now. There's several different types of fiber connections, different fiber protocols, but generally fiber moves at the speed of light, and what's slowing down the speed is the modulators or the end-to-end devices that can interpret the light signals. Whereas with Ethernet copper, it's the other way around. The signal is lower than what we can
by the time
translate
we're done here tonight, everybody will be able to take and pass their CompTIA Network Plus exam.
Yeah, I feel so much smarter already. And actually, we're nearing towards the end because it's about an hour.
Look, Network Plus is probably the easiest, and then Security Plus, and then A Plus is a monster. A Plus, you need to know like what a Corona in a printer does.
You need to know what FireWire 400 does. We haven't used FireWire 400, and I don't even know how long.
What is that like a security?
No, nope. It's a data transfer protocol from PC to PC.
Although my mixer board is FireWire for reasons that go beyond my understanding.
So back in the day, before we had USB 3.1 and Ethernet, PC to PC Ethernet with MDGIX or whatever it is, so where it automatically detects the pinout configuration, we had FireWire, and that's how we transferred large amounts of data from machine to machine. Yeah.
But we've had improvements on transferring data from machine to machine, so obviously it's not needed. Or is it more beneficial?
I promise you that there's systems out there that still use it. There's systems out there. I've used tape recently, tape storage fairly recently.
Well, tape storage, it allows
3M,
it allows you massive amounts of storage that you don't necessarily need to access right away. So it's still used.
In the military, we had SCSI cables on our hard drives.
good. I mean, it's a great protocol if you want a daisy chain.
Yeah, if you want something from 1992.
Sure.
Stitics, yes, it is.
Thank you, Stitics.
It definitely is.
I'll ask him around the horn.
You
and
guys
we'll
keep
kinda
saying
rapid fire.
words, and it's going right over my head.
I'm so
This-
sorry.
I'm trying to
Nod
learn.
and say,
I am.
"Mhm."
This could be a series
I'm
every
trying.
night about that just never ends.
No, you know what? Because I appreciate fucking Justin and Jason would just make me smarter, and Multi too, because Multi knows how to do every fucking thing, anyways. So, if the fact that I like, because we've had conversations just involving like manufacturing and some type of technology like before Justin. So I think it's you said it this earlier in the beginning of the show. Yes. It goes beyond just talking about what we dislike. It's important to talk about our likes. And I can see what passion you and Jason and Multi have in it. So it's good that we can have this discussion on it and then bring, discussion about rocks and discussion about everything else and no discussion about disc golfing because, no one likes that.
What? We're allowed to talk about disc golf.
Say, I did watch for a little while. I was more into the tech, or at least trying to keep up with, what was that internet show, This Week in Technology, on the Twitch networks? Leo Laporte.
Twit was a like a weekly podcast type.
Yeah.
Deal. But there was like when YouTube was newer, there was like a explosion of things like that, of like Marquez Brownlee and Austin and all these other tech reviewers and unboxers and people that were really into it. And now it's like, okay, let's build the most outrageous $15,000-$20,000 computer we can ever build, and that's the only thing that draws people in. It's hard to find like just a general basic conversation about new stuff or things that we should be using. Because you just got to be outrageous to be popular. A lot.
Speaking of new technology,
is the Twit network still up and running?
I have no idea.
Leo
Stitics said he used to watch it.
If only we had the compendium of all human knowledge in front of us at this moment. It's
Google.
This Week in Tech still exists.
This Week in Tech still exists.
Can you guys explain why motherboards and good video cards and stuff are so hard to get right now?
There's a global microprocessor chip shortage.
People can't get sand because people can't get sand.
So there's a number of another comedy of errors with that one. So the biggest hit was COVID.
Yeah, people can't get sand. Nobody's mining sand. You have to use a specific grade of silica to use for these wafers that they're using the lithography on when they're making the chips. I wasn't able to get canning jars for a year. They were gone. Nobody could get canning jars.
What were you saying, Jason?
Well, there was also a massive fire in one of the Chinese chip manufacturing plants.
That'll do too.
Yeah, and so Toyota kind of really screwed the pooch on this one because Toyota had they call it TPS, Toyota Procurement System or something, and it's based off of a principle called just in time, as in. You only order enough rear view mirrors for the amount of cars that you are going to make. And then you get them just in time to put them on the shell of the car that you want to build. And the entire auto industry moved over to that, I want to say about 15, 20 years ago. And then all industry moved over to that. And so now you have bleeding edge deadlines and no workers to come in because they're sick. They need to practice social distancing, a lot of different factors. So, I mean, COVID really, really destroyed all of our supply lines. You know, they couldn't mine, but not only that, they couldn't transport. They couldn't transport. Nobody was on the roads. Nobody. It was just like I said, a comedy of errors. So now we have, and this is affecting everything. Like the auto industry, they can't sell cars. They have empty husk of cars with no brains, no ECMs to control how this car runs. They don't have, brains to control the safety systems that are mandated by the government. You know, every car has to have backup cameras. Those need chips in order to process that video. And so you've got these cars that are they're sitting in lots, brand new cars, ready to go.
And this was happening at so after the recession, we had a boom in our economy, and we were kind of plateauing. So there was before COVID, there was an expected lower demand for everything, for big screen TVs, for PlayStation 4s, because the latest gen was several years old, and the newest one was, some time out of gaming systems, of, the car sales were expected to be down, home computer sales were expected to be down. So nobody expected high demand on any of these. Then COVID happened, and then the latest systems dropped. AMD is making the best processor and the best graphics card that you could ever imagine for actual reasonable prices. It was insane. But so all these things happen at the same time, and it was just like, Jason said, a perfect storm of expected low demand, no reserves, no workers, with incredibly high demand and no supply lines.
And with
so it was already starting to be on the decline.
I was listening to NPR,
and then it stepped down further. And now people are working from home. There's obviously people that want to upgrade and do whatever kind of shit with their computer systems. Now the
people
cost is way up.
If people needed to buy printers,
there's no workers. There was.
You needed to get laptops out.
Well, even if we maintain the same supply from 2018 or 19, there's no way we could have kept up with the demand of the COVID demand. Like you're saying, people working from home now, people needing more printers, people needing more graphics cards and new CPUs for
extra monitor, keyboard, and mouse.
Yeah,
and all of that takes sand.
Multi-being facetious, but
do we see a timeline as to when we get out of this, though?
Sand is the second most utilized, second only to water as far as resources go.
Awesome, and something that's changing, because we're trying to change it, but I think like 60 or 70% of the global supply of microprocessors come from China, and they were hit first, and they shut down the whole country.
Oh, go ahead, Helen. You were trying to say something.
Yeah, because I was listening to NPR like just 2 days ago, and they were talking about the supply line for tech on one of their stories, and that it, like, not only on the consumer side, but on the supply line all the way down to, what happened in China, but also in Australia. And because I forget what the mineral was. I don't know if it was lithium or something like that. Like, there's two major countries that supply one of the major metals that are used in a lot of tech. And because the supply line went down, the manufacturers have gone down because they can't get the materials that they need to even build the tech right now, because you don't have, there was a bunch of workers that got sick or died, and they're having a hard time replacing people that are skilled or even want to work in those industries. So it's not just affecting us on the consumer side; it's going all the way down the supply line because of COVID.
And no matter how many American flag signs are on your product, or where it's put together, or where the company exists, or who the CEO is, the chips inside it are more than likely made in China and Taiwan and South Korea.
I think Ollie had a question, though.
Yeah. Is there, do we see a timeline as to when we're going to get out of this desperation.
AMD, and their stockholders call said they expected to last at least until the second or third quarter of 2022. Of their and when they emerge from the shortage, that means that we're broadly out of it.
But that's when they can,
keep up with backlog or start catching up on backlog.
Yeah, and Intel is right now really hurting because, and it's not because of Apple. Apple is like such a small percentage of their client base. So Apple going over to their new M1 processors and now the M1X, that's really not hurting Intel, although Intel likes, taking little jabs at Apple for it. But Intel, they are really behind the curve. And I would also have a little bit of pushback that AMD makes the best graphics cards because price point, maybe, but NVIDIA is still that 3080 is so really nice.
I know. Intel is releasing their new. They're entering the fray.
They're trying with their graphics card, and I'm going to be watching all the tech tips, as it were, as to how those benchmarks are going to go. But I mean, I love AMD, and I will say that I got lucky in that I bought some AMD stock right before, or right as they were announcing the Zen 2 processors, and that got me a pretty good chunk of change.
Oh yeah, the Zen 2 chain. Now their GPUs are starting to catch up to NVIDIA. They're probably not as good, but their CPUs, their Zen 2 architecture is I think the clear front runner at their per dollar.
Yes.
Absolutely. So that's really good.
Did they fully integrate Radeon into their or they when they bought the GPUs and added that into their the whole company, did they maintain that as separate? Because I know that they've done their F1 CPU GPU on the same chip kind of stuff was after they acquired that graphics processors.
So AMD has, the answer is kind of no anymore, but they're going to. It's really kind of a hard. So
they're
AMD,
both Korean companies, right?
Well, no. So ATI has been fully bought by AMD, and ATI is dead. So AMD Radeon Graphics, that is fully an AMD product.
Okay.
So I thought you were meaning like their APU line, their advanced processing unit, which
is a misnomer.
It is a misnomer, except when we're talking about the Steam Deck that Valve is coming out with, which I got to get my hands on one of those, because you've got the Zen 3 processing, Zen 3 or Zen 4. You got the Zen processor, but you have the RDNA 2 in a handheld, in a handheld device that can do ray tracing. It can do all your AAA titles. It can run Windows if you wanted to. It's completely like an open architecture. It can play all your old games through emulation, as long as you do it legally and not try to steal games, because that is bad. Sorry, I just have to put that little disclaimer out there, even though I know people are going to do it.
No, I appreciate that. People need to know this.
I think the one going into the Steam Deck is very similar to the 5700X, which now it's not as great as a dedicated GPU, but it does run similar to like a 1060 or 1070 or something like that. If it was standalone, but with the newer features like ray tracing and stuff like that. So it's going to be pretty interesting and a lot more powerful than any other handheld that we've ever seen.
And a great little hack pad too, if you know what you're doing.
Jason. Wait, who's hacking?
Did you hear that Twitch, all of their red team tools were exposed?
That's not surprising.
It's not good.
Yeah. Just download Kali. You've got all the red tools you need.
Fine.
Not Kelly.
Kali.
He's talking about Kali Linux.
Yeah.
Kali.
Got it. Got it. I didn't think you were referring to Kelly. Got it. One quick question.
Go ahead, download Kelly.
Download Kelly and throw rocks at your enemies.
Final question. Favorite, I guess you could say, well, two-parter. Favorite consumer product as of now, as far as technology is concerned, and what do you foresee is like the new up-and-coming thing that would change?
I'm liking the new. I want to like the iPad, but I'm liking the MacBooks. And as far as new and upcoming technology, I would say it's old technology that is getting rediscovered, and that's the ARM processors, doing a fundamental shift away from the old style of processors. These new processors, they can do more per clock cycle because they don't have as many instructions as the older style. And that can lead up to, especially in the data sector, that can lead up to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in electricity savings alone.
Okay.
The low voltage ARM processors.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
What do they run at?
The first Android phone was on ARM, the first few, and then they moved away from it.
Speed doesn't matter because they can run as low as a gigahertz. They can run as high as the big boy processors as well.
They were designed to be low power, so they were designed for mobile products, but they were very weak, and they were overly complicated. They weren't very energy efficient. There was a lot of problems with them when they came out.
And now they're just they've matured and they've come into their own, and they are going to be a force to reckon with.
Hit their sweet spot. Good.
Anyone else? New tech? What's going on? What do you like?
I have really enjoyed stepping up to a Razer peripherals as far as the mouse and keyboard goes. Optoelectronics seems to be so much less frustrating. As far as keyboard goes, it's just wonderful having a mechanical keyboard. First time.
Yeah, but it's so loud, clackety clack.
No, mine's not. Mine's silent.
You buy it for the clackety clack.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had some clackety, but no, this is a quiet keyboard. But
brown switches for the win.
And I'd like to get one of those weird left-hand controllers that has your WASD keys and like your F keys, but like a 20 button. It's got, what do they call it? Tartarus or something by Razer has one or something like that. Tantalus. So yeah. So something for gaming would be nice.
Justin?
I have a couple things. One is that every year since the T-Mobile G1 came out, which was the very first Android phone available stateside, it was the first one, but it was called something else and released somewhere else first. I bought a new phone every single year, sometimes twice a year. And I finally the Pixel 4 is what I have now, the Pixel 4 XL. And I did not buy the 5. So I've actually finally kept the phone for almost 2 full years.
Oh, shit.
And I think around a year or two ago, phones have become completely mature and saturated to where there's no good reason, even from somebody who likes buying new shit just for the sake of buying it. There's just no good reason in doing it. There's nothing justifiable there. The only reason to buy a new Pixel is because the new one has 12 gigabytes of RAM versus the 6 that's in this one. And they had a lot of RAM issues when they first came out before they, pushed a bunch of firmware updates. So that phones have always been one of my things. You know, I'm a mobile app developer. I like tinkering with it. And I like that it's Linux and not, you know, whatever else is going on.
Justin, how do you feel about this statement? I've had this phone since 2013.
Yeah, you should throw that out the window.
Why?
Because it still works.
No.
It still works great.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It does everything I need it to do. It does everything I need it to do.
Yeah. What do you need it to do though? What do you
occasional
need?
Text, telephone calls, and it plays my MP3s.
And I am in it in 2 minutes.
Who cares? There's nothing on it. Go ahead, get into it. There's nothing on it. No banking information. Nothing.
One thing I miss is the iPod Classic with the 320 gigabyte hard drive in it. And I don't know how or why, but they made like that for a couple years, and then they dropped the storage and they never increased it again, and you never saw anything with even close to that storage.
No.
Get an old iPod Classic on eBay and swap the drive out for a terabyte hard drive.
Yeah, they just walk around with a terabyte SSD or whatever in your pocket. One thing that I've been looking for, that I still look for often, is something like Google Glass. There's other variants out there. Google's still working on something that's more of they're trying to keep it more of a corporate or privatized type deal.
I feel like this is your lazy excuse to just not pick up your phone and you just have shit in front of your face all the time.
Listen. I want to be able to walk on the treadmill
over there
and watch a movie and see all my notifications and all that other shit without moving my head.
See? Yep. Exactly. I know him. Anyone else?
Look, the current alternative to that is there's a neckband with a hook that holds your phone in front of your face.
The science center has Oculus Rifts that have kind of wires that go up to pulleys, so they're spring loaded, so they don't weigh anything. They just kind of like hover at the right height, right? You just kind of strap it on. But you can't move very far because it's just like
it's weighing you down.
Yeah, so people can actually wear it for 15 minutes that aren't used to it when they're coming through the science center.
I want to get into VR so bad, but I can't justify buying something that won't last like 2 hours or less on battery.
Yeah,
the battery technology is killing everything.
So what we need to do is just improve fucking batteries.
Well,
true.
Yes.
Very true.
That would be wonderful.
Decrease power usage. Yeah, decrease weight, decrease power usage, increase battery energy density. You bet. And they're working on some good energy.
Well,
energy
look,
stuff.
my watch lasts 2 or 3 days because it goes into like some special power saving mode when I'm not using it. But phones have typically lasted, 4 to 6 hours screen on time for the past 10 years. They get,
this phone lasts 4 days.
Yeah,
4 days.
Yeah, if you don't use it for anything,
charges. Maybe 5.
Piece of
Shut your
Maybe
mouth.
5.
But
my battery's finally going on my phone, and I'm going crazy right now.
but most people would be amazed at how dialed back our tech is, and for the sake of battery and energy conservation.
Right.
We literally have to hinder ourselves and handicap our systems, especially the mobile ones. Like if you buy a MacBook Pro, I don't know if the latest ones are like this, but you buy a MacBook Pro, it has the latest Intel processor, the latest NVIDIA graphics card. You're actually using a mobile version of that that's so hamstringed that it's like half of the power of the full desktop version, just because they know the full desktop version will drain the battery down, but they don't advertise it like that.
The M1 is not like that. The M1, you're going to get 17 hours on that battery. And it is going to be incredibly powerful. You can do video editing on it. Now, not as good as like a full fat tower computer, but it is so much more capable. It really is I mean, I hate Apple, but I give them all the props in the world for making a good book this time around.
I've been using the Surface books, and they're fantastic in my opinion. As far as Windows laptops go.
Fair. Anyone else as far as favorite tech now, what you're looking for in the future?
I love where they're going with the drone racing.
Oh, I love drones. I'm gonna buy one real soon. I've never had one, but I'm buying one soon.
Well, see, now I need to bring Brenna on because she's all about drones.
I'm getting a cheap piece
military
of shit
grade.
one. So no, we're not getting some fucking monster Channel 7 News chase criminals around the neighborhood drone.
My drone's
No,
the
I like
Enterprise.
the tiny little ones that they're racing now through those courses, and the way they're right in it. It's so cool to watch them and then get the actual view that the guys flying the things are getting.
Did you guys see the video of the bowling alley with the drone?
Or they were going in between pins or something?
Yeah, it was going through the
Okay.
whole thing. Yeah, I'll post it in the after show.
Oh, you're so excited. Okay. Yes, we will be having an after show after this. I can pull out the banner here. There we go. Yes. So if you're not already part of the Discord, go ahead and join it. Tiny.cc says IFDC. We may go ahead and have an after show where Justin continues to show us videos of his exciting drone maneuvering bowling pin footage.
It's not me. I wish.
Oh, okay. Well, eventually. Jason, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. See, I knew there was some benefits for you to have you on because you kept the conversation going. And I know a lot of what you and Justin can feed off each other and help us learn too. So it was fun.
If you weren't here, there would be just another set of deer in headlights.
I said I ask good questions. I do ask good questions.
I think that our conversation went on certain levels that we didn't necessarily need to have them on. So maybe next time we work on that a little bit.
Okay. Yes. Tech Talk Part 2.
Let's talk about the Xbox.
Oh,
Well,
God.
I learned
Xbox
quite
versus
a bit,
PlayStation?
Just before we go, I'd like
but
to say,
I'm glad I was part of it.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Kelly.
Kelly. You're gonna have to join.
before we go, I'd like to say one thing.
No,
I'm scared.
Yeah, me too.
Everybody get out there and throw a disc. It's so much fun. Get to your local disc golf course. I shot even par today. I'm happy.
Yeah. Get some disc shoes.
On that note, I'm clicking the button now. Good night, everyone.